think we've all experienced, or at least we're going to experience, life ambushes. Jason Redman experienced a real life in combat life ambush, and he's used that to be able to help other people. And he has definitely made an impact on my life and the life ambush of my son's stage 4 cancer diagnosis. So enjoy this, take a lot of lessons from somebody that I hold in the highest regard. Jason, man, I am I'm beyond excited to be visiting with you, brother. So wanted to kind of hit the high points real quick as to your impact on my life. So middle of 2019, my oldest was 5 and he was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And so as we were navigating that and trying to figure out what in the world to do, which direction to go, I came across a podcast that you did in promoting your book, Overcome. And so I got the book, I dove into it, and it just made a massive impact. So your story is absolutely incredible. Your will and your mindset is something that I just can't, share enough. Like, I think that your story is so amazing. And so definitely something that I relied on just trying to focus on my mindset. But if you will, give us a little bit of that background on who you are and how you got to the point that you are now, doing a lot of incredible things.
Yeah, Logan, I'm honored, and I love hearing these stories of when someone is going through life ambushes. And man, that's a life ambush. So I hope your son is doing better now. I don't know that story, but
no, he's doing great. He went stage 4 to cancer free in 8 months. We're in the podcast studio. He's in the next room over. I homeschool. So he's reading a Thomas Jefferson book at the moment.
Okay, awesome. Well, good. I'm glad to hear that. And I love those stories when people reach out and tell me that. So, yeah, man, I'm nobody special. Everybody wants to try and make it out, oh, well, you're a Navy SEAL, you're special, you're a superhero, or any of these different things. And that's really, none of that's true. I'm an average everyday person who had a desire to be part of a warrior community, obviously the SEAL team. So I served 21 years with the SEAL teams. I'm not what most people think when they think of Navy SEALs. I'm on the smaller end of the spectrum. I'm about 5'8" and 170. And I did not have a perfect career. I messed up along the way, showed some aspirations for leadership and stumbled, almost got myself kicked out because I got a big ego. I got arrogant, as some young men do when you find some success early. Thankfully, God gave me a second chance, and I figured that out. I had some great leaders that gave me a second chance, and I figured it out, and I grew up, reinvented myself, drove forward as a young SEAL leader, and unfortunately got all shot up in a pretty intense firefight in Iraq in 2007. That started a whole new learning process on how to overcome, how to deal with adversity from the injuries that I sustained. It took about 4 years and 40 surgeries to go through all that. And in that process, obviously got a name for myself for my mindset and attitude, because I just said, hey, it's merely a bump in the road, and, we're going to stay positive and drive through it. And from there, I started dabbling in the entrepreneurial space. I created a nonprofit to help wounded warriors, and I ran that almost 10 years between the time I was wounded and the time I retired from the military. Continued to write, continued to want to help people, and that led to a speaking career. And now, we're trying to coach and help other speakers. I try and help people be better leaders. My wife and she has been by my side, and an amazing Spartan wife, entrepreneur. So together we have a relationship book that comes out next year that we're really excited to get out there, because so many people want to know how we've done it. We have been married for coming up on 23 years, and together for 25 years through all the major hurdles in my life. She's been right there by my side. And I think in a day and age where marriage, I mean, I think we're averaging over a 50% divorce rate in America right now. The protector community, law enforcement, military, fire, are at a 70% higher. Special operations community, we are at a 90% divorce rate. Wounded warrior community has a 90% divorce rate. So we beat all those odds. So yeah, at the end of the day, man, I want to help people be better. I want you to be a better leader. I want you to be a better husband. I want you to be a better man. Those are some of the big things I'm really focused on in this day and age, because I think men don't know how to be men today. Leadership is starting to be lost. People don't know how to be a leader. People are afraid to be protectors. They're afraid to step up and say, oh, I need the ability to protect. I need to know how to use a firearm. I need to know some level of violence. We're afraid of that in society today. That's being, if you're, yeah, it's just a weird time. And I don't believe in all that. I believe that we should be balanced. I believe that if you're a man out there, or even a woman, and I'm not one of these people that says, hey, women, your place is in the kitchen. I don't believe that in any way. My wife is definitely not that person. She is a leader and a warrior, but provider, protector, and provider to protector and leader. Those are the three components that I think people should be. And that's where I'm at. All these lessons have led me into this lane.
You've definitely had a quite the journey of different experiences that led you up to that. So if you can help me paint that picture of how extensive the obstacle that you had to overcome with the being wounded in combat, and then specifically when you paint that picture, then tell me about the sign that you put on at the hospital room. I think that is so, I just got chills just thinking back to it, brother. Just paint that picture of how I mean, I don't know how you made it, buddy, after listening through all that, but then that sign is just, to me, encapsulates everything that we're going to talk about.
Yeah, and the funny thing about being wounded and what led up to the sign is, what I try and tell people, I frequently, when I speak on stages in my books, I write about, Logan, as you well know, I talk about an overcome mindset. And an overcome mindset is a mindset that of whatever adversity I'm going to face, I accept that this is going to come. I don't care how perfect your plan is. Sometimes it's going to go awry, and bad things happen to good people all the time. I mean, case in point, Logan. I mean, it's hard for us to understand sometimes why things happen to people. Why would God allow your son to get cancer? I mean, that's a really hard thing to wrap our head around. And sometimes it's real easy to get bitter and to get angry and upset when these bad things happen. But what I try and explain to people is nothing forges an overcome mindset better than embracing the fact that bad things happen to good people, and how you approach it and navigate through it is going to make you stronger, better. It makes you a better leader. It makes you more resilient. And it prepares you for future adversity you're going to face. So one of the interesting things, most people think, oh my God, you being all shot up, taking a machine gun round to the face, 4 years of surgery, that must have been the worst thing you ever went through. And it wasn't. What set me up for success in that was that leadership failure that happened several years earlier. And it's the heart of my first book, The Trident. And that was the first book I ever wrote. And it is about, The Trident is a story of failure and redemption. Because when I failed as a young leader, the SEAL teams are a really tight-knit community. It is a brotherhood unlike any others. I would say it's probably the tightest knit brotherhood in the entire military, with the pros and cons that come with that. And one of those things is you're either in as a part of that brotherhood, and unfortunately, if you make mistakes, we're very quick to boot guys and to ostracize guys. We're not very forgiving. And I found myself on the flip side of that coin when I messed up, with guys saying, kick this guy out. You're not one of us anymore. We want to get rid of you. And it was, I hit such rock bottom when all that occurred. I literally put a gun in my mouth in Afghanistan and almost took my life. And thankfully I didn't. The God kind of knocked me in the back of the head in that moment. And I saw pictures of my wife and kids on the desk in front of me, and was like, what message are you sending to them if you do this? And that kind of shook me out of it. And I went and got some help, but it was almost it was almost a 2.5 year journey of earning back my reputation and my credibility and building back the trust that I had broken with my teammates to prove to them that I had the ability to not only be a part of this community as a warrior, but even bigger that, to be part of the community as a leader. And that was really hard. That's the hardest thing I've ever been through, because every day showing up to a large group of people, not everybody in my troop, but a large group of people in my new troop who did not want me there. And they were just waiting for me to fail to hopefully get rid of me. So every day showing up and focus on, how do I lead myself? How do I focus on what I need to get done? How do I make sure I'm doing the right things and paying it forward and being positive despite some of the negativity I was experiencing? Over that 2.5 year period, built myself back up. Obviously probably one of the best troops I've ever had the opportunity to be a part of. We go to Iraq. Probably one of the most action-packed deployments I was ever a part of, and many other guys that I know that experienced pretty intense careers. One of the more we conducted over 80 direct action missions going after mid-level and high-level Al Qaeda and insurgent leaders. I think I don't know, we killed a significant amount of bad guys, and we captured 124 mid-level and senior leaders and individuals attached to the Al Qaeda insurgent movement. And it was right at the very end of that deployment that I was wounded. We walked into a very intense firefight and ambush situation going after the number one leader for Al Qaeda in the Anbar province. And I was shot 8 times. Myself and other teammates were shot moving on this target. And I was shot 8 times between my body armor and body. I took 2 rounds in the left elbow, in the left arm, which pretty much effectively destroyed my elbow. I thought in the firefight, my arm had actually been shot off because it deadened all the nerves. It's 3 a.m. in the morning. I can't see a thing. Night vision goggles. I took rounds off my plates. I took rounds off my helmet, off my gun, off my side plate. I had my left night vision tube shot off. And then I turned to try and move back to where our guys were when I caught a round in the face. It hit me right in front of the ear, traveled through my face, took off my nose, blew out my cheekbone, broke all the bones above my eye, shattered my orbital floor. What was left of my cheekbone broke, kicked out to the right. It broke my jaw to my chin. This is actually my skull. So we have the No Bad Days clothing line that we have out there, which is a mindset of readiness and overcoming adversity and embracing the fact that whatever adversity you encounter, if you're still alive, it's a good day. It's a good day because it means you can still tackle the problems you face. So that happened, and obviously I get medevaced. I get to the hospital in Bethesda, and really struggling in the beginning. I remember thinking to myself, wow, I just finished the hardest road I've ever walked to rebuild my reputation. Everything was back on course. I was screening for our next tier SEAL team. I had been approved for my next leadership position. The vast 90% of the guys were like, Red, you're all right, man. I'd fight with you any day. And suddenly I found myself in a hospital bed where doctors are telling me, we're going to amputate your arm. You have no use of your left hand. Your elbow's destroyed. You've got massive nerve damage. I'm just, my face is just mangled. I'm trached. I'm wired shut. They're feeding me through a stomach tube. I'm so weak from all the blood loss. I had to have nurses help me use the bathroom. I remember thinking to myself, man, where do I go from here? And I remember thinking all the things that everybody feels. And Logan, I know you can relate to this. When bad things happen to us, there is a tendency to be overwhelmed in that moment. There's no hope. There's nothing I could do. It's all outside of my control. And then we do that very human thing. We think, it's not fair. This isn't fair. Why, God, why would you do this to me? And I remember thinking all those things. And then I remember just taking a breath, and I was like, all right, dude, you can't fix what's happened. You can't go back and undo it. You can't change anything. Where you are is where you are. So there's only one path forward, or there's only one path, and that's forward. And we had a saying in special operations: when you came into an ambush, or you were attacked, you had to get off the X. So this is a critical point of everything I talk about in all my talks on how we deal with adversity. You got to get off the X in your mind. If you're in a physical attack, you have to get off the X, which is the point of attack, whatever catastrophic event. And I realized in that moment in that hospital, I was like, man, you got to get off the X. You can't sit here and feel sorry for yourself. The only thing you can do is drive forward. I was like, you know the formula. You executed the formula when you failed as a leader. You lead yourself, you lead others, you lead always. The situation doesn't matter. You can lead from any situation, including a hospital bed. And I said, that's what I'm going to do. And, I told my wife from that point forward, I would not feel sorry for myself. I was only going to drive forward. I was only going to be positive, and I wasn't going to let anyone come in that room expressing pity or sorrow for what had happened to me. And that's how the sign came to be. I wrote it out. It wasn't a lot of thought. It said, attention to all who enter here. If you're coming in this room with sadness or sorrow, don't bother. The wounds that I received, I got a job that I love, doing it for people that I love, defending the freedom of a country that I deeply love. I will make full recovery from what is full. That's the absolute utmost physically. I have the ability to recover. And I'm pushing that about 20% further through sheer mental tenacity. This room you're about to enter is a room of fun, optimism, and intense rapid regrowth. If you are not prepared for that, go elsewhere. And we signed it, the management. It it took on a life of its own. It was all over the news. It earned me an invitation to the White House to meet President Bush, who later signed it. The original sign I did not keep. I did not feel like it was mine. It actually hangs at the Wounded Ward at Walter Reed Medical Center. And it has been amazing. I mean, documentaries have been made about it. It has been written about in books. Probably, I would dare say at least 1 million people have probably seen it, been inspired by it. And, yeah, I mean, now I try and use that message to help others to get off the X, to drive forward, to don't feel sorry for yourself. Guess what? Bad things happen to everybody. The difference, you have the power. The greatest thing, the greatest gift in this life, what that sign represents is choice. You have a choice in how you're going to deal with it. With your son, Logan, you had a choice in how you were going to deal with it. You could have laid there and felt sorry for yourself and projected negative energy on everybody, or you could have led your son and shown him, which I have a feeling by me being here is what you did. And, that's, God gave us free will. What are you going to do with it?
Yeah. Well, Jason, that's where that you had such a massive impact on me long term. It's like we never, ever let Lander think that he was sick. And everything that we were doing was to just get better, to get stronger. We were going to focus on what we could control. And I said, like, from day one, the doctor's going to do their part, God's going to do his part, Daddy's going to do his part. So what is it that we can control and implement? And so, there were so many times that, I'd go to the bathroom there at Children's Hospital and break down in the shower, right? Gain my composure and then go back out there like, hey, all right, here we go. And so I think that mindset, translated to him, and he's just like blew my mind with how well he took everything in stride. I mean, there was obviously some very difficult times, but I think that's where I just commend you so much. You don't have to share your story. You could have lived through what you did and not got it out there into the world, not been a servant to your brothers, right? Like the human race, in getting a message out there for hope, because it definitely impacted me. And I know that there's countless. So what is that kind of more fundamental life ambush advice? Just that first step to get yourself off the X.
Don't see yourself, number one, don't see yourself as a victim. It's pretty easy. And then we're living in a victim society right now. I feel like a lot of our leadership wants you to be a victim. They want you to have to depend on them. They want to convince you that you don't have the ability to save yourself, that you'll never be successful. Whatever it is, whatever narrative is out there, I feel like that's what we're feeding the American people today. And it's sad to me. We spend so much time highlighting individuals. We spend so much time highlighting victims when we should be highlighting the victors. There are tens of millions of absolutely amazing, successful people from all walks of life, race, creed, color, gender, all walks of life, who have found tremendous success from massive trauma, from massive setbacks, from massive failures, from intense poverty, whatever it is, they've achieved the American dream. And that's who we should be highlighting, man. The U.S. government should be like, hey, man, you know, we should take this guy, whoever he or she is, and we should take this single mom who should have never, she was born into poverty in the poor streets of name a city and raised 3 kids. And she, worked 5 jobs to raise her kids right. And she created a company and she's a multimillionaire and her 5 kids are all in college killing it. Those stories are all over our country. Yet that's not where we're focused on. Instead, we're focused on, you're a victim and you'll never achieve that. That's an anomaly when that's just not true. So number one, you have to accept you're not a victim. Guess what? Bad things happen to people. Get a victor mindset, an overcome mindset. An overcome mindset takes 3 things. Number one, it takes awareness. You need to accept that you can have the most perfect plan, but guess what? Bad things are going to happen. Violence happens. Accidents happen. Oh my God. I mean, look at the Baltimore bridge collapse. It just happened before, I don't know when this podcast will air, but when we're recording it, just last week, a bridge struck the Baltimore bridge. I mean, a ship struck the Baltimore bridge and on a major thoroughfare, 6 bridge collapsed and 6 people were killed. Those 6 people, when they went to work that day, never thought that, oh my God, this is going to be the last day I exist on this planet. So there has to be an awareness that every day you go out into the world, something bad could happen. You shouldn't live your life in fear, but at the same time, we should be aware. I am aware that I could be in a car accident. I am aware that, God forbid, something bad could happen to my wife or children. I am aware that, this business, the different businesses I'm involved in could collapse. Something could happen unexpected that could wipe everything out. I'm aware of that. So number 2 becomes preparation. We now have a mindset of, okay, if I'm aware that some bad things can happen, I should be prepared. And when I say prepared, the problem is a lot of people get this idea that like, oh my God, I need to become a prepper. People want to take it to the extreme. They're like, oh my God, if I think that maybe someday, the grid can fail, then, I should build a bunker and have 10 years worth of food. Well, man, that consumes all of your time. So I don't ever recommend to anyone, don't spend 90% of your time on a 10% probability of something happening. Instead, if anything, it should be a small mindset shift. It should be, okay, I'm aware this could happen. Now I'm preparing, and sometimes preparing is only mentally preparing. God forbid, I hate the thought of something could happen to my wife. I hate the thought of something could happen to my child, but mentally I know it can. So at least if that moment was to come, it's not such a shock that I'm not able to even function, which is what most happens to most people. They're overwhelmed to the point of not even be able to function when bad things happen. And number 3 is action. If we're aware, if we've prepared, we're now able to take action. And action becomes the positive steps we need to take. And now this steps into the realm of what I talked about in the beginning. Be a leader, be a protector, be a provider. If you are a leader, you are going to tell people, guess what? This bad thing happened, but this is what we're going to do. And if you're a protector and it's a dangerous situation, you're going to lead people out of it, or you're going to do what you have to do to protect them. And if you're a provider, then, if the world collapsed, I mean, in my case, if it was my business collapsed, then, well, guess what? I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to either have to create a new business. I'm going to have to do something different, but I sure ain't going to sit here and feel sorry for myself. I'm going to get up and drive forward. So that is the essence of the idea of getting off the X and building an overcome mindset. It's shifting your mindset. It's not saying nothing bad will ever happen to me, because that's not true. It's not reality. But if you're aware, if you do a little bit of preparation, you're now ready to take action and get off that X and drive forward.
I love that. So why then is health such a important part of that preparedness?
Well, God gave us an amazing machine you're walking around in. I'll be honest, if pause time, I'd go to medical school and I would spend a whole bunch of time understanding. I would learn everything about it. I'm so fascinated. I think that the most miraculous piece of engineering on this planet is a human. That two cells come together and they create this. And 99% of the time, it's perfect. It works flawlessly. It repairs itself. I mean, that two cells come together and make the millions and millions and millions of complex processes that is a human being, with awareness and thought and intent and all these amazing things. Um, so I just, so many people take their health and their body for granted. And, if you are healthy, if you take care of your body, it operates at a higher level. You are able, you think better, you handle stress better, you feel better, you look better, you function better, all these critical things. So I talk about something called the Pentagon of Peak Performance in my book, Overcome, that leaders, there are 5 key areas that leaders should make sure they're aware and putting some time and effort into to have balance. And when I say balance, because balance is not this perfect thing. When I say 5 areas, it doesn't mean that, every week you're putting 20% into these buckets. Life doesn't work that way, but it's awareness. The 5 levels are physical leadership, mental leadership, emotional leadership, social leadership, and spiritual leadership. Physical leadership is the foundation, because if you are not healthy and you're not taking care of yourself, if you never have energy, if you feel bad all the time, if you're not sleeping, it's really hard to take care of the other ones. So I always tell people, anytime I'm coaching someone, it's one of the very first things that we focus on. I'm like, hey man, how well do you take care of yourself? Do you work out at all? What's your nutrition look like? Are you sleeping? Are you optimizing yourself? Which in this day and age is, are you aware of how your body works? What's your resting heart rate? What's your blood pressure? There's so many new wearable technologies that kind of let you know where you're at, that can help you evaluate and make sure, hey, my system, this Ferrari I'm running around in is working at optimal efficiency. We spend so much time and effort on all the different systems in our lives. I mean, we monitor our businesses through these smart computers. All these metrics in business. Yet most people don't do it with the one thing that will never be replaced, and that's your body. And it is the core of everything that you have to drive forward. I'm getting ready to turn 49. And people need to understand something. We have chronological age, which is the number of years you've been on this planet. So my chronological age is, getting ready to be 49 years on this planet. Then we have biological age. Biological age is the impact of stress on your body over time. So even though I'm 49, I probably look closer to 59 or even over 60 on paper, just because the amount of stress that's been placed on my body. There are others out there. I mean, individuals maybe who are heavy heroin addicts or meth addicts, or maybe they've gone through a massive amount of trauma. They could be 20 or 30 years biologically ahead of where they are chronologically. Why do I tell you that? Because I want to live as long as I possibly can, to spend that time with my family and hopefully my grandkids, and to continue to make an impact on this life. And a lot of that happens with the core basic level of your physical leadership. So if you want to be a better leader, if you want to be around and set the example for your kids, for people in your community, take care of this machine. You don't need to, don't get sucked into the perfection. You don't need to look like, a professional bodybuilder. But man, if you're functionally fit, you can lift your body weight, you can squat your body weight, you can pick up something heavy, you can, walk 3 or 4 miles, maybe you can run a mile, whatever it is. If you can do all that, then guess what? You're doing that on a regular basis. You eat pretty good. Don't eat all that processed food. You're getting at least 6 to 7 hours sleep a night. You're taking care of the machine.
Taking care of the machine. Yeah, I love how you put that. So, Jason, how did you get to the point that entrepreneurship got on your radar, and why is entrepreneurship something that is a focus for you and something that you're passionate about?
I didn't grow up with money. Our family, we were middle class, and at some points just downright poor. Um, and I would love to tell you in the military, I actually made a decent paycheck. I was probably middle to even upper middle as a SEAL officer with all my special pays and everything. So I actually thought, man, I'm doing pretty good in this life. I got out of the military and I got exposed to a different world. And it also, I'm a mental leadership. The second tier of the Pentagon of Peak Performance is constantly challenging your beliefs and researching and learning. Make no mistake, the world we live in is operates on a fiat system, meaning money. And everything that we need in this life, you have to have money in order to make it happen. Now, granted, we could say, well, I'm just going to go live off the grid and I'm going to create my own house and electricity, and only about 1% of the people on this planet are doing that. Instead, the majority of us rely on a money system. We use money to buy a house. We work to make money, or we do something to bring in money. And what I've come to realize is that money is an amazing thing that can enable you to do great things. You can do incredibly positive things. Equally, you can do some bad things with money. There are people out there that do that. But what I have come to find in meeting really successful people is a lot of them do amazing things with money. You can provide jobs to people. You can provide philanthropic support to people. You can set your children up for generational success. And I dare say that right now, there is a shift that's occurring in America, and it's happened in a lot of countries out there where the middle class is shrinking. So we're seeing a greater divide between the rich and the poor. And that is a perfect model of most third world countries, most socialist countries. And I think I think we need to encourage entrepreneurship and individuals to understand you have the ability to go create a great life for yourself. Like, I want to be controlling my destiny. And a lot of that fell into the entrepreneurship. I want to have financial freedom so that A, I leave a great legacy for my kids. B, I hope that I can employ and help other people to find their path of financial freedom. And C, to be able to give back where I want, where I can make a difference. The flip side of that coin, the last component of this is, who do you think is, our political system is so broke. Like, if you don't have money, it's almost impossible to get elected today.
Right.
So what do you see? You see individuals, you see oftentimes only rich people who are running. Every now and then we're seeing individuals who are able to get a good following behind them. But oftentimes what occurs, if they don't have their own money, then someone else is sinking massive amounts of money into their campaign. The problem with that is now they become part of the system. Now, whoever funded them is saying, hey, you owe us. But I would much rather know that those of us who are more about the future of America, middle class, our kids, the future, are able to influence that, because right now, big business are pretty much the only ones that are buying elections, which is leaving us where we are with some of the choices we have as our political leaders, which I think is way too far to the extreme on both sides.
Yeah, no, I
So that was a
definitely can't
really long
argue.
answer on why I decided to get into entrepreneurship, and I'm trying to grow.
No, I love that. It's about the resiliency, the self sufficiency, to where we can take care of ourselves. And honestly, Jason, that's where the whole sowing prosperity principles come in with what we are trying to do, and that's health, wealth, and production. And what I'm attempting to do with that is it mirrors life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So, like, how do we get back to being self sufficient, not run by a corporatocracy? Because I don't even know, we're having our puppet strings pulled, and I really think that the only way to get away from that is to create localized economies that aren't a part of this globalized system. And so, like, honestly, you're kind of the outlier with most of our guests. It's regenerative agriculture, it's health, it's we do a lot of cancer focus too, but how do we get this food system where it's regenerative and nutritious and bioavailable in a way that's strengthening these communities? Because I'm in Arkansas and I have watched rural America dying, rural Arkansas dying, where these corporate farms come in and buy just, hundreds of thousands of acres of farmland, and then they monocrop it, and then whatever community was dependent on that, it's gone, right? And so in everywhere that happens, brother, it's crime skyrockets, poverty is just rampant, and then you have all the problems with that, which again, that's the exact opposite of prosperity for me. So I couldn't agree with everything you said more. Entrepreneurship is the solution. Entrepreneurship is the light in that darkness.
Yeah, we need to bring back we need to bring back middle America. We need to bring back Main Street USA. There's an amazing, young lady. Oh my gosh, I can't think of her name right now, but, it is her platform. It is about, building businesses on a Main Street level. It is small business entrepreneurship. And I love what she puts out. She's like, I want to create an insurgency across this country to bring back small business ownership. Years ago, if you went into a small community, it was all these mom and pop businesses, and now big business is killing all of that. And unfortunately, a lot of big business, it's all driven by dollars. So they're quick to just lay people off without any thought of the impact that that's having on that community. No different what you said with these big businesses are buying up everything, the farms, and not thinking about the impact it's having on the smaller communities. When that happens, I mean, I've been reading about all these, what do they call it? Like a food desert. These places in poverty-stricken areas where they can't even get a grocery store. So they're trying to go get food, and the only thing in some of these areas is fast food joints. So now we're doubling down on processed foods and stuff that's bad for them. And who's that benefiting? Well, it's benefiting big business.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. So in essence, that's what kind of creates that victim society that you alluded to at the very, very beginning. It's just this cycle, and again, I think we break that by having focus on the victors, right? I love how you put that. The focus in ourselves, being optimized to where we can execute on whatever that mission is that we're on, and then entrepreneurship. Use our businesses, our services, our products to improve lives.
Yeah, and don't look for the quick fix. I think that's part of the problem. I think there was an iteration that happened over these last 30, 40 years where these big businesses started saying, man, we're going to buy up. So these farms, and unfortunately, the farmer said, hey, you know what, man, I can just cash out and make a buck. And good for them on one side. But man, where I feel like so much of the decision making that's being made recently in the last 20, 30 years, especially for big business is all about the impact right now. I feel like it's that way in government too. We're not looking further down the road, or at least we're not doing a very good job of it. I mean, God dang, man, look at our national debt, how it just continues to explode. And I'm just like, what are we leaving for our grandkids? How are we going to manage this massive debt that, the debt clock just, continues to skyrocket? How are we ever going to fix this?
So tell us about that coaching program or the mission that you're on and those steps that you put somebody through that wants to be involved with you.
Yeah, so I am fortunate enough that, I do some one-on-one coaching right now. I'm spread so thin. I'm not doing a lot of that right now. We're kind of revamping our programs. But what I did, I'm pretty excited. I joined a coaching group. I'm one of 3 coaches called the Legacytribe. And it is about creating a legacy in your life. That we want to make you a leader, a protector, and a provider, and have that mindset of that. We want to make you a leader and an individual of impact, personally, professionally, and physically. Those are the three key areas, the three P's, as I like to call them. And it's myself. Bedros Koulian is a friend of mine and a mentor. He's a high-level business coach. He coaches many, many small businesses. He's an incredibly successful entrepreneur. He is the American dream. His family left communist Armenia. They were part of the Soviet Union. And his dad was actually a member of the Communist Party. And when Bedros's older brother was old enough, they were going to send him to Afghanistan. They were conscripting him, and a lot of the Russian troops were being killed in Afghanistan. And his dad didn't believe in it, and he didn't want to see his son killed, so he defected. And he took Bedros and his brother and sister and the whole family to America when Bedros was 6, and they had nothing. They lived, it was 2 Armenian families living in a 5 and a 6-person Armenian family living in a 2-bedroom apartment. And Bedros's dad worked 2 or 3 jobs. The whole family had to work. And Bedros has built himself into a 100 millionaire. He owns multiple businesses now. So he is obviously our entrepreneurship and business coach. Then we have Bryce Henson. Bryce is the CEO of one of Bedros' business, Fit Body Bootcamp, which is a 8-figure business operating in 5 or 6 countries. It's a fitness franchise all across the country and international. So Bryce is the business leadership coach, and then I am the mindset coach for this group. And we want to help individuals grow your business. We want to help you be better mentally prepared to build that overcome mindset. We want you to be better parents. All these things that will make you more successful in this life. And we're trying to do it at a decent price point. A lot of these high-level coaching programs are expensive. As a matter of fact, Bedros for one-on-one coaching is $100,000 a year. And the average everyday American who we want to make an impact to will never be able to afford that. I can't afford that. Right. So it's $250 a month, and we wanted to make it reasonable. We have 4 meetings every month, and that includes 2 live get-togethers a year where we all get together. So every week we have a meeting. 1 week you get Bedros, 1 week you get Bryce, 1 week you get me, and then every month we bring in a high-level guest coach. Like this month we have New York Times bestseller Dr. Gabrielle Lyon, who's all about muscle-centric medicine and fitness. So she's our coach that's going to be on this month. So you can look it up.
What's that platform?
Look up legacytribe.com and you'll be able to find it. We only open up membership once every quarter. So for a week, we open it up and then, we close it off again to manage our members and make sure that, for each quarter, people are getting the best. If we constantly injected people in there, it takes time for people to get a feeling for how things go. So we try and do that only once a quarter to make sure we're maintaining the culture of the group.
Sure. No, Jason, that's incredible. I think mentorship is so important for anything, any endeavor. Now, I've definitely spent a lot of money and it not gone well in some coaching programs. So, there's always, that side of it too. But I think that group sounds absolutely incredible. And the mission behind focusing in on that middle class is definitely commendable. Do you think that the struggles are what compelled your partner to be able to take the business to the level that he has?
Yeah, 100%. He goes back to he goes back to a moment when he was about 6 years old. His sister was working a job, and this is probably in mid 80s. She worked at a restaurant, was being sexually harassed, and she wanted to quit. And Bedros' dad was like, you have to hang in there. We can't afford you not to work. And Bedros at that age was like, you know what? Someday I'm going to make so much money that my family will never be in a situation like this. And he has, man. He took care of his family. Now that they're older, he's bought them houses, he's taken care of them, and he gives back tremendously. I mean, he donates millions of dollars a year. Every year it's pretty amazing. He takes his company and they buy multiple, Mack trucks, tractor trailers, and they go to Target and they load these tractor trailers with toys and they go deliver them to Toys for Tots. So, pretty neat, man. And that's what money can do if you put it to good. It's pretty amazing because unfortunately we live in a world that operates on money.
We really do. And the Napoleon Hill quote, with every adversity, with every hardship comes the seed of an equal or greater opportunity. And I think that is such a beautiful way of looking at this. And for me, the biggest, moments of growth or moments of, maybe even just life correction have come at the hardest times. And so I think that, we reframe how we look at those difficulties, those life ambushes, and they really can be almost like jujitsu leveraged into having a greater positive. So Jason, thank you for your time. Thank you for your work. Thank you for absolutely putting out this positive, amazing information in the world. And how do you recommend that we connect? How does somebody connect with Jason Redman?
Yeah, Logan, I'll double tap that for a second. It's interesting. I've been around a lot of people that have experienced some pretty big hardship, myself being one of them. Wounded warriors that have been blown up and lost limbs, wives who have lost husbands, individuals, suicides, catastrophic, life-changing life ambush. And what's interesting, over time, for those who were willing to drive forward and find positivity and make a difference and a positive impact, all of them, myself included, Bedros would say the same, all of them would say, you know what, man, that was one of the best things that ever happened to me. It sucked. It was hard. It was miserable, but it made me better. So I try and tell people that when you're going through that storm, just understand that's like a sword, man, being made, put into the fire and hammered and broken and folded. And guess what, man, you're being made better. And if you can embrace that, understand, and it's going to set you up, that's what builds an overcome mindset. So people can find me at jasonredman.com. That's my website. And there, you can get a link to the Legacy Tribe. You can find my socials. I have an entire clothing line. I've overcome. You can get signed copies of my books, all the things that I'm doing. That I do defensive training. So I believe in teaching. I think that every American out there should own a firearm, and they should be trained in not only how to use that firearm, but they should be trained in first aid, survival, and a little bit of self-defense and situational awareness. And that's exactly what we teach in our course that we run multiple times a year. I believe strongly in the Second Amendment and what our founding fathers had in mind, that A, the average citizen should have the ability to defend itself, and B, the citizenry of a free country should be a deterrent against a tyrannical government. The government should be afraid of all the citizens. And if they know, man, we got a bunch of trained citizens that have firearms. So I think people miss that point, but you have to be trained, and we're trying to do that.
Amen. Jason, thank you so much, my friend. I love it. And we'll include all the links to that in the show notes.
Awesome. Logan, thank you, man. And for your son, how old is he now?
He is 8. You want to see him real quick?
I'd love to see him.
I'd love to see him. Come here, Bubba. He got some bedhead coming. Here, say hi to Jason.
Hey, what's up, buddy? How are you, man? So you're a fellow overcomer. You know what that means?
You overcomer?
That means that, you had some hardships in this life, but you overcame it. And that makes you stronger and better in this life.
Thank you for joining us on Sowing Prosperity. Be sure to follow along across the social media platforms, including YouTube, and be sure to go to sowingprosperity.com.